Somewhere in the Arctic, a man named Overgard is digging through the snow to reveal the soil beneath it. He stops when his timer goes off and walks back to his tent. It turns out that Overgard is stranded there because his plane crashed, and he is the only survivor. He is digging into the snow to write SOS, hoping that rescuers will find him. He is the plane's pilot, but he has been stranded there for a long time now. Soon, he checks the fishing lines he set up but finds only one small fish. Overgard is frustrated because he has caught very few fish and has been rationing his food, but it is not enough for him to survive for long. When he goes back to the plane, which serves as his shelter from the freezing weather outside, he immediately eats the fish. He survives for weeks with these, but he is slowly losing hope of being rescued. He then prepares to go out for another task, trying to restart his distress beacon, which is powered by a manual dynamo. As he does this, he observes his surroundings and memorizes every terrain. Just before it gets completely dark, he walks back to the plane and prepares to sleep for the night. In the morning, he wakes up and checks his SOS sign and fishing lines. To his surprise, he finds the footprints of a bear, which has destroyed his fishing line and uncovered the frozen fish he buried beneath the ice. Frightened, Overgard runs back to the plane and checks if the bear is still there. Later, he goes out to check if the bear is around, but he cannot find it. He walks toward the mountains he has been mapping, and there he sees the bear roaming across the snowy landscape. The next day, the weather is bad, but he continues to make a map of the area and retry the distress beacon when it suddenly receives a signal. Overgard looks around and sees a helicopter in the distance. He signals the pilot to his location, but due to the bad weather, the helicopter cannot land and soon loses control, crashing nearby. Overgard immediately runs to help, but when he arrives, he finds the pilot dead from a head injury. He looks inside and finds another pilot hanging upside down and unconscious. He immediately removes the pilot from their seat, drags them outside, and rushes to the other survivor who is severely injured. The other passenger turns out to be a woman named Maria, the pilot's wife. After discovering her injuries, Overgard immediately looks for the medical kit and tends to her wounds. However, Maria passes out. Overgard checks the weather and realizes that if he travels back to the plane with the injured Maria, they will not make it before dark. In the morning, he searches for supplies and finds a couple of noodle packs, a map, and some flares. He immediately eats the noodles to ease his hunger and looks for more useful items inside. He decides to take Maria to his plane, prepares an improvised sledge, and leaves a note on the helicopter door about their whereabouts. Soon, he begins to drag Maria on the sledge back to the plane, and just before dark, they arrive. He puts Maria in his bed and learns that she has a son waiting for her back home. Overgard promises her that another rescue team will arrive and will find them soon. But in reality, Overgard thinks no one will arrive to rescue them, as he believes that the search and retrieval operation has been called off. In the morning, he goes back to the helicopter to look for more useful items. There he finds a lighter and a photo of Maria, her husband, and their son. Overgard feels saddened that the boy will lose both of his parents, and he decides to do everything he can to ensure that Maria survives. He properly buries Maria's husband in the snow and pays his respects. As he continues searching, he finds a stretcher at the back of the helicopter. He immediately takes all the useful items he can carry and prepares to return to the plane. When he arrives back at the plane, he places the photo beside Maria. When he checks her wound, he notices signs of infection. He checks the map and marks the location, realizing they are surrounded by vast mountains. Later, when he checks his fishing lines, he finds a large fish caught in one of them and becomes very happy. He immediately cooks the fish along with some noodles and gets Maria to eat a little, but she is not feeling well. The next morning, he checks on her again, but Maria's condition worsens, and as he tends to her, she grabs his hands, begging not to leave her behind. And Overgard assures her. Later, Overgard checks his map and finds a refuge camp that is a few days' travel away. He calculates the journey and decides to travel there so Maria might have a chance to survive. Soon, he prepares for the journey, gathering everything he can use and collecting all the food. He places Maria on the stretcher, which he will drag. He leaves another note about their whereabouts for the rescuers to find. He also goes back to the crashed helicopter and changes the direction marker to point toward their destination. He begins to travel while dragging Maria on a stretcher. He stops to check their location, but soon realizes that he is moving too slowly, because of the weight he is pulling and may not reach the camp within his estimated time. Before night falls, he digs into the snow to make a shelter where they can rest for the night, making sure Maria does not freeze. The next day, he continues on, but discovers that on their planned route, he must climb steep mountainsides to reach the other side. He climbs to the top of the mountain and tries to pull Maria up, but he cannot do so. Because of this, he decides to take a longer route, which will make the journey twice as long as originally planned. Before night falls, he finds a cave beneath the mountainside and decides to take shelter there for the night. He cooks food for them, but Maria is getting worse and refuses to eat anymore, only drinking a little water. That night, Overgaard thinks he is running out of time to save her, but he knows he must rest as well. As he sits, he hears a growling noise outside the cave and assumes it is a bear. Suddenly, the bear finds them inside and begins digging into the snow covering the cave entrance, frightening Overgaard. Fortunately, he finds the flare, uses it and scares the bear off, causing it to run away. Because of this, Overgaard refuses to close his eyes and remains awake throughout the night until morning. In the morning, he prepares to continue on, but along the way he faces a storm that forces him to stop and rest early. As they rest, he embraces Maria to keep her warm. When the storm stops, he continues on, but he is exhausted and cold. However, seeing Maria's worsening condition, he pushes himself to keep moving. After traveling for a few more hours, he decides to rest for a while and checks Maria's condition. But she is no longer responding to him. They stay there for the night, and the next morning, when he checks on her again, Overgaard realizes that she is unlikely to survive. He prepares to leave her behind, thinking that he might die as well if he stays and fail to reach the camp in time. But as he prepares to leave, he gets distracted by a flower in the snow and falls into a hole in the ground. When he wakes up, he finds himself in a cave several feet underground, and his feet are caught under a large piece of rock, making it impossible for him to pull free. Overgaard tries his best to free his feet from the boulder, but he has no luck. He thinks back on all his struggles and decides he cannot give up now. He tries once more, then decides to break his ankle intentionally to free himself from the boulder. After freeing himself, he tries to crawl out of the cave and notices a small opening in the distance, allowing him to climb out successfully. After he comes out of the cave, he walks back to his belongings and checks on Maria once again. To his surprise, Maria wakes up and speaks for the first time. Overgaard apologizes to her and promises that he will do everything to help them reach the refuge camp. Before they leave, he checks his leg and tends to his injury before dragging Maria with him again. After several hours of walking, Overgaard becomes very exhausted and decides to lighten the load. He throws away everything they don't need, including the distress beacon. He begins to climb to the top of the mountain, leaving Maria behind, to see if they are near their destination. To his surprise, he sees a helicopter land not too far away. However, it will not see him unless he signals it. He starts screaming, but the two people in the helicopter do not hear or notice him. He immediately grabs a flare and uses it, but they still do not see him. He takes off his jacket, burns it, and waves it. But the helicopter soon leaves, disappearing in the opposite direction. Overgaard pushes Maria up the hill and desperately helps her to her feet, believing they are searching for her. But the helicopter keeps moving away until it is gone. Overgaard loses hope of surviving and gently lays Maria on the ground, promising that no matter what, he will never leave her alone. He lays on the ground as well and holds Maria's hand. But just as he closes his eyes from exhaustion, the helicopter returns back.
See you in our next Film Flash. Thank you for watching.